We talk about the fact that when he was at home, all he wanted to do was hide. He spent his entire life hiding. He was either in his room or he was in the nursery. He liked to play a lot of video games. He liked to play Halo. And it was just all about just trying to stay away from anyone who's going to bother him, ask him any questions, like, just leave me alone. He said that they liked to hide a lot in the basement at Highgrove, and he and Willie did. Now, it would appear that at Highgrove, Willie was willing to be his friend. It used to be a bomb shelter. And he goes on to describe this cozy little nook they had. You had to go way down in the basement, like there's tunnels and all this. And then he goes on and talks about that this little nook that they had fashioned from all sorts of cast-offs or that they had found around the castle. Persian rugs, red Moroccan sofas, wooden tables, dartboard, stereo system. And that, you know, they kept it well stocked with alcohol. But not drugs, okay, you guys? No one was doing any drugs. Okay, well, let's be honest with ourselves. Well, you're probably going to lose your friend first to alcohol before you're going to lose him to weed, but whatever. Anyway, no one was doing any drugs on there, so I just want to set the record straight, says Harry. And then he talks about the fact that they had a lot of friends that they used to bring back down with them, and, you know, lots of... He says, there was plenty of innocent snogging, which went hand in hand with the not-so-innocent drinking, rum and coke or vodka, usually in tumblers with liberal splashes of Red Bull. We were often tipsy and sometimes smashed, yet there wasn't a single time that anyone used or bought drugs down there. But like Harry, what's ultimately the difference? Alcohol is a drug. I mean, you can try to make some kind of difference there, but it's not. And then he said, our bodyguards were always nearby, which kept a lid on things. But it was more than that. We had a sense of boundaries. Oh yeah, what might they have been? Oh, what sacred boundaries were you holding so dear? Anyway, then he says that it was a perfect hideout for a teenager, especially this teenager. Boo-hoo, cry me a river, okay? The privilege is just dripping off every page. I mean, I use that word reluctantly because much has been made about one's privilege, but if anybody could be slapped with the label of a privileged person, it would be this individual. He has everything. Yet he's always complaining. Always. I had to hide away down there. I had to drink myself into oblivion with my friends. Where else could I go? Well, apparently he could go some places. I'll tell you one place he decided to go. He decided to go to a pub and meet an older woman, but we'll get there. Then he says that sometimes when they'd be... One of the things he liked about the place was that whenever they were down in Club Harry, Willie actually wanted to be his friend. And he says, Willie felt the same about Club H. I often thought he seemed more at peace down there than anywhere else on earth. And it was a relief, I think, to be somewhere that he didn't feel the need to pretend I was a stranger. Quite frankly, who says that would be a relief? I'd love to pretend that guy was a stranger. If that guy was my brother, suddenly I can understand why Willie was like, back up, you know? I mean, can you imagine this ragtag all the time, barking at your heels, whining and crying about something? Although, he goes on to say that William often tried to talk to him about their mother down in these little quiet, cozy times as they're both nursing the bottle. And he says that he just didn't want to talk about it. And William would get frustrated with him. And Harry says that being so obtuse, so emotionally unavailable wasn't a choice I made. I simply wasn't capable. I wasn't close to ready. Well, yeah, it would be hard to talk about it since you've been living in a fantasy world lo these many years. Then he says that, this was the other thing that I'm telling you, when I was reading this section, I could not stop rolling my eyes. I could have rolled my eyes right out of my head for how many times I rolled my eyes reading this. He talks about the fact that he goes, one topic that was always safe was how wonderful it felt to be unseen. We talked at length about the glory, the luxury of privacy, of spending an hour or two away from the press's prying eyes. Our one true haven, we said, where those lot could never find us. Okay, was the press roving across the heathered moors when you're on your long hunting trips? Explain to me how you don't have constantly the ability to be by yourself. You have a plethora of castles available to you. There's lodges scattered across Scotland that you go to. Wales. I mean, it's like England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Where does this boy, this boy could go anywhere he wanted to go. He wanted a little piece, he could get some. And here he is acting like this tortured individual. Oh, I'm sorry. So you're telling me that when you're stalking that red deer, the press was right behind you? Give me a break. All this whining and crying.